Many have warned that it's like following the footsteps of Hercules. We even had the privilege of the footages of the bridges washed away leading to Yusufari, a local government in Yobe State, where nature is reacting to global warming. About 80 kilometers into our journey to Yusufari and only about 20 kilometers to the popular Dapchi town, we met one of our major hiccups here. The major bridge here has been washed away by torrential rains. Young boys from villages around have improvised ways of taking people across the other side for waiting vehicles for people to continue their journeys. It has become just like a market, a car park, and also an opportunity for these boys to take home some change.
I came from Meduguri heading to Gaidan. We are told that the bridge here has collapsed, but we were managing our way on Thursday. After crossing for my first trip, I slept in Babangida. On arrival at Dapchi, the road has failed. So I made a U-turn to Damaturu, Potiskum, Gashua to Girigiri. There again, water has taken over the place. My car broke down. My timing belt caught, so I went to buy another one. The place I went, Garimbiri, was also below water.
They said if you find yourself in Rome, you have to behave like the Romans. Here we have found ourselves in a section of the road towards Yusufari, and this is the only way for us to cross over. So we are doing exactly what the people here are doing, finding a way out of this situation. Our belongings taken across, leaving us in disused bathtubs. And here is our next mode of transportation. It is going to take us about 15 kilometers, where we're going to get another vehicle that will take us to the next point, which we are told that it is the same situation here that we're going to find there, because the same bridge that will lead us to where we're going to has also been washed away by torrential rains. Couple of minutes, we were at the next hurdle. Another major stumbling stone on our way here, they call this place Jumbam, is about 90 kilometers to Gashua. Gashua on our way to Yusufari. Our next mode of transport is going to be a local canoe like this one. We're going to step in and it will take us all across the water here. Then towards that way where our vehicles are waiting, a temporary motor park that will take us to Gashua. Pedaling across roaring waters. Above, it is life at its fullest. On the grounds, fishermen warming up for bumper harvest. A case of one man's food, another man's poison. With about 200 kilometers left, we took a bus and behold the popular Dapchi town and its girls' school. Sad memories still lingering in the minds of victims. Gashua a bustling town opened its arms. The journey on tarred road ended at Yusufari. Behind us, the palace of the emir. With a special vehicle, we hit the sands of the Sahara. It was a journey of 40 kilometers to our destination, where it took about 2.5 hours. Tulo, a beautiful village with the Sahara forming a noose around its neck.
Descending from one of the heap of sand dunes here in Tulo, I concluded that the case of this sand dune is a double-edged one for the people of Tulo. One is a calamity in the form of desert encroachment, and secondly, it is a blessing if properly harnessed.
A border village with its inhabitants having vivid imagination of how they lost their farm and grazing lands.
To my understanding, it is like 32 years ago to 40 years, where the sands begin to consume the city, south of the village. There is no place I have not weed grass. Smaller vehicles normally follow south of the village to other places, but suddenly they begin to witness increase in the sand dune, eating up plenty houses. People keep moving while the sand moves too. Now we are all stuck in the middle. In fact, when President Obasanjo came, it was better. He came and said that the government will build a third road, but nothing has happened. Even at the gate between Nigeria and Niger, the Sahara wasn't as much. We used to play there and graze animals. All those places encroached by desert used to be our grazing land, but today it is all gone, and every day it is increasingly threatening to consume the village. Now everywhere is sand, no grass, and every day it is increasing. We hope the authorities will listen to our cries. We are scared that one day the sand will eat up the village.
If you see my house now, you will be surprised. Between my house and the sand of the Sahara is just a matter of meters, but recently there are efforts to plant trees and some houses were built. Nobody entered because of the threat of the Sahara. Even now, if you go, you'd see how we are planting some shrubs, hoping if it comes and germinates, then we will have some respite.
There were some researchers who came and conducted research on the Sahara before they left. That was during Abuja era. They came and carried out research. We saw their efforts, but unfortunately, they could not conclude the work until their tenure ended, and they left the village of Tulo. Thereafter, some NGOs came and worked on the Sahara, but no progress, and we are poor people. We cannot do the work ourselves. We won't say that the government is not helping, but we are retrogressing beyond imagination. Because of that, our lives depend on farming. We don't trade, we don't engage in other civil jobs, but sometimes NGOs come to help us to survive. Our grazing lands are all gone. Sahara has taken over in all the local governments. In Nigeria, none is suffering like the Yusufura local government area.
On the flip side, the sand dunes presents beautiful scenes with an appealing contours of the sand. No doubt, this equals the sand dunes many go to spend holidays in Dubai.
The vast land of just pure desert. I have never seen that big a desert, like purely open. You could see, if you could see 20 kilometers ahead, you could see all of it is just plain sand, beautiful, the sun. I don't think you can step your foot on without wearing shoes on the sand because it's really, really hot. I went there when it was the peak season for the heat. I can't remember. That was my very first one, but I've probably been there in December as well as September, still very hot. My experience for me, one of the things I would take is the purpose-built vehicles you have for those particular, well, I'm talking about those particular activity, is the SUV vehicles driving around, and you have like the vehicle come off a cliff. One time I thought I had died. The very first time, the vehicle came off a cliff and we literally landed face first. And the vehicle went back and we continued driving. So the drivers have been very experienced. At the desert, there are not mud houses, but wooden houses where when the sun comes down, we have dinner if you want to stay over, bonfires. It's really beautiful. It's intentionally done to help encourage people to come. And if we do have that in Nigeria, it's easy. I mean, the government doesn't have to spend its own money. You know, get people who are interested in investment, both local and international, give them the space. I think give them some policies that take away some things, and we'll have a good country here.
What is unique about the sand dunes in Tulo is its oasis.
Tired of climbing mountains and mountains of sand dunes, you finally relax under the shades of palm trees that have been sustained for centuries by the density of an oasis.
Apart from its oasis, it is blessed with more than 50 lakes with hidden treasures.
Few meters away from the breathtaking oasis, a lake, and when this lake recedes, a natural resource is being mined here, potassium.
Tulo gaba daya daga nan abin da ya kai kilomita kaman 20 zuwa 30 duka hamada ne.
Tulo from 20 to 30 kilometers is all Sahara. There are places that I know blessed with fruits and potassium. Because of the mining of potassium, the place sinks and water takes over, and the potassium will be no more. Like this place we are standing by, you see there is no mud in the water anywhere. The mud dries, the potassium also dries up. It's all Sahara. We can't do irrigation. Our major call is for the government to provide us with tide road, stop the encroachment of Sahara for people to go back to farm. Because wherever there is Sahara, even grass won't survive, talk less of other plants. We need a primary health care center in case of emergency. Even the traders are suffering. Transportation is expensive, making price of goods to rise.
One lake stands out among the lakes. This is because it attracts exotic birds. Only indigenous have good description.
This is a place with huge history. Even white men sometimes come here from time to time with special vehicles. They will stay here for weeks, even months, And there are exotic birds that migrate seasonally to this place from other countries. It's like the white men usually follow to monitor them. This place that you are seeing, there are fishes, birds, crocodiles, many astonishing animals. And that is why we are calling on government to come and upgrade this place to become attractive, because this place is the only place in Yobe State that is unique and peaceful. We have never experienced any kind of crisis among us.
Wannan guri da muke tsaye da kai a gurinsa, wari ne wanda ake kiransa Tulo mai ruwa.
This place where we are standing with you is a valley known as Tulo Valley Water. Our forefathers used to do irrigation farming here. They plant cassava, onions, potatoes, salad, and so on. But as time goes on, the water took over the valley. From there, exotic animals begin to inhabit the water, and for now, the place can only be regarded as a tourist site. And for us, it's a place of history. We are calling on the relevant authorities to make it so. There are times when some white men usually come here, we show them the beautiful places and put forward our challenges.
The Emir of Yusufari admits to the fact that Tulo is a stone throw away from becoming the bride of Nigeria's tourism sector.
Our first challenge is natural. Natural. If I say natural, I mean desert, desertification. Desert is fast approaching here. You know, in those, I would say in the early 60s, we are one of the great producers of groundnut here. And due to this desert encroachment, our groundnut has disappeared. So this is one of the dangers. So as our common crops like millet, guinea corn, they are all sort of decreasing in yielding due to the nature of our soil. You know, you have seen it. We have most of our soil here is just sandy, very poor sand, and the rainfall is decreasing every year. Though this year there's a great improvement in rainfall. So you have seen our crops when you visited Tulo. So we are hoping to get more rain and good harvest. So our main problem here is that natural disaster of this desertification, then followed by maybe we don't have good roads from here up to Tulo. From here up to the border, either Tulo or Bulatura, there's no road. We don't have this modern third road. So we need a third road linking us with Niger here, so that our local economy or trading would boost. Tulo is very, progressing border town, I would say. We have recently, created a district headquarters there. Tulo now is a district headquarters. So we have seen it. It is improving. It is progressing right on the border with Nigeria. So there's every hope this place will be a wonderful place. And you have seen that we have sand dunes for tourists if they like. People may go there and see these are natural sand dunes. We have oases. In this oasis, we are producing local potash. This potash is also very useful, either in making some medicine or animal feedings. In the oasis, we also do some irrigations. The water level there is very near. So our people used to make some irrigation. We do plant cassava, maize, sweet potato, this cucumber, and the rest. And in the oasis also we have a sort of palm tree which produces its fruits, very sweet. We call it goruba. Yes. This goruba, they have discovered, is very, very useful for human consumption. So we are producing that a lot, many there. So we hope the government will assist us to make us at least enjoy life as the others. In the Sahara Desert, we don't have all these luxurious things. We don't have this, so we need it. If we have good road, the place is open. We have a modern market, it will help. If we have medical, either hospital or comprehensive health centers there, it will help. And veterinary clinics, we have animal rearers also. We need a standard veterinary clinic in the area.
How I wish these motorcycle trucks will be those of monster machines and other fun-seeking amenities for tourists, resting place across the whole village, and maybe hotels. I'm wondering what this will bring to the village of Tulo.
When the sun starts to dim, we had to say goodbye to the land softened the curse of Sahara encroachment. Yet, a blessing in disguise. But for us, we have printed out steps on the sands that could wipe the steps in tens of minutes. But above all, excitement of people and the memory of our visit will linger for long.
My name is Biko.
And I'm Mana.
And together we are Biko's Mana.
What is up, everyone? My name is Ricky Smith, and I am the writer and producer of the Sesame Street Friends theme song.
Hey, it's time to play. We're glad you came, because we love to share.
It's been so cool working with Biko and Mana on this project. They've been incredibly professional, and obviously they are so talented. We could not have found better people to sing this song.
Hey, it's time to play. We're glad you came, because we love to share. We love and sing, do brand new things with new friends everywhere. Let's have some fun with everyone, because we love to learn together, making you friends forever. Instead of street friends.
This is
rechargeable chopper. You pack the pepper. You chop your pepper to your text. Wow. This is Sharp Kitchen made product. You can see garlic. You pack all the garlic here. Remember, it's the free gift. Buy one, go with this free. As you can see, you have your garlic. You pack ginger here. You use it now to chop ginger. Sharp Kitchen made Germany. You can see the ginger here. Very, very simple. You use this now to chop onions to your text. What is the name? Sharp Kitchen made Germany. You chop the onions to your text. You have your onions. Wow. You pack carrots inside. As you can see, that is the free gift. Your rechargeable chopper. You have your carrots. You pack okra here. That's the free gift. You chop okra to your text. Very, very simple. Remember, that is your free gift. As you buy the complete set, you go with this free. Very, very simple. You have your okra. With this multi-purpose, you can use it to slice cabbage to your text. If it is not Sharp Kitchen made Germany, don't buy. You have your cabbage for salad. Very, very simple. You can also use it to slice your onions to your text. Then you use it to peel back of cucumber. As you can see, round shape of your plantain. As you can see, your cucumber. You can also use it to peel back of your carrot. Very, very simple. You use it to peel back of your orange. You use it to peel back of your yam. Very, very simple. If it is not Sharp Kitchen made product, it can never be sharp. Then you also use it to peel back of your pineapple. This is the free gift. Buy one, go with this free. As you can see, it's multi-purpose. This cup you are seeing is unbreakable cup. Very, very simple. As you can see, Sharp Kitchen made product. It doesn't break. As you can see, it's iron to iron. Iron to iron. Sharp Kitchen made Germany. You can crush this bottle. As you can see, what you do for me, fix the bottle here. Very simple. Sharp Kitchen made original. You can see the bottle, cross it. Very, very nice packaging. Sharp Kitchen made original. After finishing, you see the bottle. Wow. As you can see, you have your dry beans, dry corn, upper, bambara nut. Very, very simple. If it is not Sharp Kitchen made product, it can never be sharp. Yes. You can see your debino, very, very simple. You can see coconut, as you can see tiger nut, very, very simple. Then you apply water on it. Then as you're seeing, the engine is water resistant, as you can see. Then you blend. Very, very simple. Not just you can very, very nice. You can see your dry beans, dry corn. Wow. As you can see, you pack your tomato, you pack your pepper. As you can see, you pack your pepper, tomato. Very, very simple. Then you cover and blend your tomato to your neck. Start eating my original. You blend your tomato. After finishing, you have your tomato pepper. After finishing, you have your tomato pepper. As you can see, wow. After finishing, very simple. After finishing, you can have your pineapple, watermelon, tiger nut. As you can see, you pack your beans for moi beans for akara to the quarter of the cup. To the quarter of the cup, put a little water on it. Very, very simple. Sharp Kitchen made to blend their beans for moi, beans for akara. Sharp Kitchen made very, very nice. Sharp Kitchen made. After finishing, what you do for me, you come and you have your beans for moi, beans for akara. Very, very nice for your kitchen. Wow. 6.5 liters for 100,000, no more 130,000. 5.5 liters for 90,000, no more 120,000. 3 liters for 70,000, no more 90,000. Then as you buy, you go with these two free gifts, rechargeable chopper and multi-purpose. You can see the sun cap approved. Very, very quality. This is Sharp Kitchen made Germany. Sharp Kitchen made are seen on TV. Rush now to ongoing trade fair starting 4th of November, ending 13th of November at TBS, Tafawa Balewa Square, Lagos. Remember, Sharp Kitchen made Germany. If it is not Sharp Kitchen made Germany, don't buy.
Africa's most populous nation, Nigeria, is marching towards a crucial presidential election in February 2023. Most of the political parties have released their manifestos, but a critical element in the mobilization for votes is the women's bloc. How are the manifestos addressing women's role in politics and governance in Nigeria? That's our main focus this week, as well as the imperative of the AU Ambassadorial Young Leadership Initiative. I am Charles Alpha, welcoming you to this week's edition of Africa Weekly. Now, world leaders are in Egypt for COP27 Climate Change Summit. African leaders are using the summit to demand for a favorable climate adaptation financing.
Unprecedented floods ravaged states in Nigeria, compounding already difficult livelihood constraints for the likes of Uzaro John.
Almost 100,000 naira. We pay for tipper to carry out cross the river. But now they just drop us for the road and collected the money.
For her sake, the global community is in Egypt for the 27th Conference on Climate Change. It is a conference for implementation of all pledges, promises, and commitments made in the past to check the excesses of climate change.
This is why I'm calling for a universal early warning system coverage within 5 years. And it is why I am asking that all governments tax the windfall profits of fossil fuel companies. Let's redirect that money to people struggling with rising food and energy prices and to countries suffering loss and damage caused by the climate crisis.
Common themes resonating at this summit of world leaders are those of climate finance and loss and damage, where developing countries insist that those in the developed world whose industrialization activities generated the greenhouse gases that are warming the planet to support the adaptation efforts of developing countries.
Although we contribute to the tune of less than 4% in terms of greenhouse gases, Africa is behind low carbon development. We're fighting for climate resilience. We think this has to be a goal so that we achieve carbon neutrality by a reasonable time frame.
When delegates rise from Sharm el-Sheikh, Uzaro John, and the other millions impacted by climate extreme would expect never again to suffer this tragedy.
And Africa needs a crop of young leaders who will redirect the course of the continent towards greatness. At a leadership summit for young people in Abuja, Nigeria, some eminent individuals were honored as new ambassadors of the AU Agenda 2063 Assembly.
Over the years, the AU Agenda 2063 Ambassadorial Assembly and ECOSOC have been implementing various programs in support of the African Union Agenda 2063 aspirations. The aim is to initiate Pan-African leaders into the Assembly that will popularize and ensure that these aspirations are met in order to birth a new Africa of opportunities and growth. This summit for young leaders is in furtherance of that objective. Some individuals who have made their mark in leadership were honored as ambassadors to act as torchbearers and mentors to young Africans in diverse fields.
To encourage the young youth, young women to see that boldness to live and to lead effectively.
Africa of good governance, democracy, respect for human rights, justice and the rule of law was the theme of the summit.
Right. right, joining us now in the studio is the convener of the African Young Leadership Summit, Dr. Tunji Asaulo. Doctor, well, pleased to have you again on Africa Weekly.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for having me once again.
Okay, now to begin with, can you give us your assessment of the concept of the Africa Young Leadership Summit?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think myself and some of my colleagues, some time ago, we came together looking at the vacuum that had been created within the leadership among the African leaders. You agree with me there is a lot of vacuums that have been left behind. And if we look at how we can move forward from where we are, we also know that a lot of young people have to be, brought on board. So going forward, I think we agree that there should be an annual platform where we can use to engage the meaningful young people of Africa. That is why we came up with that name, Africa Young Leadership Summit. It will serve as a platform where we can be meeting annually to discuss on how the AU Agenda 2063, the aspiration can be met, of course, towards the Africa that we want. You will also agree with me that at the moment, that the populations of the continent, I mean the African continent as a whole, is just between 1.4 to 1.5 billions, and the statistic has also proved to us that out of this 1.5 billion thereabout, the 60% or over 60% populations are within the young people. And what that simply means is the young people actually dominate the major populations of the Africa. So by calculation, from 1.4 or 1.5 billion, you will see like thereabout at 900 millions are the populations of the young people. And at the moment, there is no any meaningful platform that is engaging these young people. And what simply means is, if there is no any meaningful platform engaging this population, it actually means that Africa actually sitting on the get powder. And you do want the situation to be like that, to be out of control. And that is why we also agree that there should be an annual platform where we can, meet together to discuss on the way forward. And of course, on how that agenda, AU Agenda 2063 can also be achieved.
Okay, now, so what would you say has been the impact of the ambassadorial conferment aspect of the summit?
Yeah, the impact is we since of that program, even before then, for some of them that have been conferred on the ambassadorial award, we have been seeing a lot of multiplier events that even a lot of other young people are also looking forward to also be part of that platform. The purpose of that award is also to, like I said, is to bring the young people on board to see how we can also reawake the spirit of Pan-Africanism. You also agree with me that that spirit of Pan-Africanism is long dead. So this platform, or this award confirming on these young people, is to reawake that spirit of Pan-Africanism and the soul that our founding father have also left behind. And of course, the people that will be gradually, fitting into that soul. So the impact are so much, and almost all of them have come out with a lot of projects that also cuts across the continent.
Okay, now given the scope of aspiration and the impact this summit is making, how do you organization, or how would your organization and partners intend to sustain this summit going forward?
The partner that we have, even from that the day that we have that summit, even till now, a lot of people, a lot of other partners have been indicating interest. In fact, some of them are saying that why don't we also inform them? Like I said, there is a permanent platform now, which have the legal entity, which we call the AU Agenda 2063 Ambassadors Assembly. It's an assembly that we cut across the Africa is there, so the sustainability of it is guaranteed. And why partnering with others is also for them to, to also take ownership, because the message shouldn't be limited even within the AU scope alone. So we want others that will key in into this framework that will also help us to also popularize it. And of course we need funding, and that funding That is why we are also extending to other partners. So by the time that we'll be, organizing the next summit, and I'm sure that it will actually, be more than this. And of course, for us to also have it, being message go down to the grassroots. That is why we are also having people to come on board to be the messenger and to be the apostle to preach the message or to take it down even to the grassroots or to the next level. So sustainability is 100%.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Tunja Saulu, convener in part of the African Young Leadership Summit. Many thanks to you for coming on Africa Weekly.
Thank you very much.
Activities towards Nigeria's presidential election are gathering momentum as many of the political parties have released their manifestos. How can this help voters make their choices? The ruling party APC woman leader Dr. Betty Edu is with us in this studio for the conversation. Joining us now in the studio to discuss the Women's APC manifesto is Dr. Betty Edu. I want to say thank you very much for joining us on Africa Weekly, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
All right, to begin with, can you give us your perspective on the level of campaign so far ahead of the 2023 general elections?
I think the campaign is just generally beginning to pick up. Basically, a lot of consultations and planning are ongoing at all angles, and indeed, engagement with stakeholders, different groups, religious groups, traditional groups, different sects, of course, more importantly, different ethnic groups, consultations ongoing with the professionals, private sector, name it. For APC as a party, what we're basically doing now is consultation, town hall meetings, trying to do the groundwork before we begin the main campaign rallies.
Now, before elections, political parties and their candidates, they roll out all kinds of different kind of manifesto. So, what they intend to do for Nigerians. Now, what is your take on the role of party manifestos in an election?
I think party manifestos are very, very important. They bring to the fore the ideology of the party, what they stand for, what they intend to do when elected into office, and how well they intend to engage the entire population, as well as their level of implementation, preparedness. All of this is wrapped in a manifesto, but us, it's not really a manifesto because we already have a party manifesto. We already have a party agenda. We already have a party ideology for the APC, for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It's more of an action plan because he's ready for action.
Okay, now, just when I'm about to ask you what the APC manifestos, is, you started talking about that. So let's now talk about the APC manifesto, for instance. Now, in what way is the APC manifesto different from others?
Oh, many ways. I'm sure if you've looked through all the manifestos of the various parties that have been brought to the fore, APC is very strategic, very clear on what they intend to do. There's no politics in it. It's just an implementable action plan that has been put on the table. Like I said earlier on, we have a manifesto as the party, we have our ideologies, our agenda, our constitution, what we believe in. But this one, which was unveiled by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, and of course, with the candidates running under our party, is more of an action plan. This action plan directly addresses the various sectors in Nigeria and the action from immediate to medium term and long term that we would be carried out.
I'm glad you made mention of, action plan, for the various sectors of the economy, as contained in the manifesto. But you are the APC, the All Progressives Party women leader, Congress women leader. But If you begin to look at action plan, if you begin to talk about action plans, for instance, what are the action plans, for women, and how do women impact an election?
Okay, I think if you read through the action plan, especially the one that has to do with women, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was very clear, very, very clear. He went as far as reducing it to numbers and percentages. And he said on the Federal Executive Council, 35% of the persons who are there will be women. He was very clear on it. He said when it comes to job employment, when it comes to other MDAs in government, leadership, name it, women will have their 35% affirmative actions carried out to the later, implemented to the later, whether there is a legislation on it or not. He also backed that up with saying that they would put forward legislations, right, executive bills to the National Assembly that will protect women and support them. He talked about empowerment of women, financial empowerment of women. He was very clear with the gender issue, giving them that prominence, putting them on the front border, empowering them financially, taking care of those things that affect them, their children, healthcare, and the rest of it. Beyond this, he went as far as mentioning the protection for people who are affected by domestic violence and other gender related issues, and saying that his government will be out there to protect them, working, of course, in line with the SDGs and several other standards for women empowerment and growth. So he was very clear on what he wants to do for the Nigerian women. You can tell a man from what he has done before. It's not I will do. It's evidence on the ground, hard evidence on the ground. He is the first in this democratic generation that started the pairing of taking a female deputy to run with you when it was not convenient, when it was not the usual, when it was not popular, when Nigeria has not been introduced into that. He ran with a female as a deputy governor and they won that election in 1999. Of course, after then, you know very well that that has become the trend in Nigeria, such that most of the states in the West, at least we have Ogun State, we have Ekiti State, which was just recently, of course, the deputy governor was just recently sworn in. She's a woman. Going even to the north, you find female deputy governors like you have in Kaduna. These are things that he brought to the fore. We have been going around engaging women, holding women rallies, summits, conference, just to bring that awareness and put our women in the right frame of mind to go all out and campaign. Of course, in the next couple of days, we will be having the APC Women's Summit, organized by the wife of the president and indeed the APC National Women's Wing, after which we will flag off the APC door to door for women. So we'll be going from one door to the other, targeting our women in rural areas, targeting our women at the grassroots to mobilize them to come all out and vote for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
All right, thank you very much. Wish you all the best. Dr. Betty Edu, the APC woman leader, there speaking on the 2023 elections, manifestos, and prospect for women under, of course, the All Progressives Congress APC. Thank you so much for coming on Africa Weekly.
Thank you for having me.
It's all right. Similarly, the NNPP woman leader Dr. Marian Yassin also shares her thoughts on the role of party manifestos with us. Doctor, we're pleased to have you on Africa Weekly.
Thank you.
All right, so begin with, can you give us your own assessment on the level of campaign so far ahead of the 2023 general elections?
What we've been doing since some few months ago is to open our new offices most of the states that we have offices and we have people contesting for election, those principals that have brought themselves out to contest for one office or the other have gone to build some offices, rent some offices to make sure that it is their office, so that all those that will vote for them can communicate with them, they can get to the office and know that really this party is existing in this state. We had our meeting, our seminar to sensitize the women folk, all our Kwakwasiya women leaders, our NNPP women leaders, our zonal women leaders across the country, and leaders of organizations, groups, and all that women groups have been called for this meeting. We sensitized ourselves quite well. There was this mobilization, sensitization, and campaign strategies that we even educated them in different dialects to understand what the manifesto is meant to be. How is it supposed to go?
Right.
And what is the manifesto? Is it targeted to the needs of the people? A lot of program for the women.
Good.
The women are going to be the center stage.
All right.
No more violence on women. Education of women is going to be prioritized. It's going to be one of the best things. Child education is going to be taken care of.
Okay.
Child education is going to be taken care of. Our health, welfare, the associations of women is going to be strengthened, and it will be monitored, and government will intervene. We will take care of those NAPTITs. We will make sure that they utilize their program as it is enshrined in their constitution. We will make sure that no more kidnapping, no more raping. Women will not be subjected to different kind of vices that we are facing today. Our 35 affirmative action will be taken care of.
Doctor, obviously you have so much, but we can't take more than what we have taken right now. I want to say thank you very much for coming on Africa Weekly and sharing your thought there, with us on this program. Many thanks for coming. I wish you a very, very, very good luck in your endeavors as you begin your campaign next week. I was going to ask you, when will it begin? And after you have set up your offices, it is good to know that your campaign begins next week. I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much for having me, sir.
And African leaders at the just concluded 2022 African Investment Forum have laid out the continent's vast potential and invited global investors to seize investment opportunities.
Today, we are in a situation where the debt situation that is rising for many of the countries, precludes a situation where if the countries keep taking too much debt to do infrastructure, it will only worsen the debt situation for them. So what they need to do is to open up the space to the private sector. And I believe that strongly we must have, at the very minimum, public-private partnerships, allow the private sector in energy, allow them in transport, allow them in rail, allow them in supporting medical infrastructure and so on. Let the private sector space be expanded for infrastructure. And the last thing I'll say on infrastructure is this. Infrastructure, if well done, is like a backbone of your body. And if you do it well, the economy will grow.
That's our package this week on Africa Weekly. Thanks for being part of it. I am Charles Alpha. Thanks for watching.
Hours a day, 7 days a week. You can watch NTA International live on your TV, computer, iPad, tablet, and phone. Log on to visiontv.co.uk and click on Entertainment, then NTAI. You can also download the iOS or Android app on your mobile devices to watch NTA International on the go, anywhere in the world. NTA International, your window to the world.
Welcome to Africa, the land of recent civilization.
Our pastors, our imams, in every church, in every mosque, please realize that in the course of praying for peaceful and transparent elections, we all have duties beyond prayers. If we want a stable society before, during, and after the elections, what should you be saying to those that worship with you? All Sundays and all Fridays, you are saddled with the responsibility of bringing up good generations. It is therefore your duty to both man and God to ensure peace all the time, no matter about elections alone. People talk to people and people listen. Talk to your followers. Make them listen to ensure peaceful 2023 elections. This message from the National Orientation Agency.
What is happening? Your eyes are red. You are armed with a machete and a gun.
See, I am angry and I can't even contain it. See.
Oh, my guy, calm down.
See,
calm down.
See, Oga. I have planned to go and destroy these people's businesses in the city. I have to retaliate for what they've done at our own place. They cannot eat their cake and have it now, never.
If you destroy their business here and they destroy that of those close to you over there, especially that your brother who sends you steady cash, how would you survive? Would your dreams be on hold?
See, what you're saying is correct, but I'm still angry.
Best way is to embrace peace. With peace and unity,
my people, let us embrace peace and unity. Let's learn to live as brothers and sisters for a progressive, prosperous nation. This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Hello, I'm Esther Gido Ewart. This is Africa 54.
While the Republican Party made gains in Tuesday's U.S. elections,
control of Congress is still undecided. VOA's congressional correspondent Catherine Gibson reports of what can happen when neither party has a commanding majority. As world leaders gather in Egypt for the COP27 climate summit, rising sea levels threaten that nation's ancient port city, Alexandria. VOA has a report from the scene. 2 U.S. senators met with members of the African diaspora community to discuss U.S.-Africa policy and other issues. We'll take a close look. All this and much more on today's Africa 54.
We begin in the United States, where Republicans are inching closer on Thursday to securing a majority in the House of Representatives as ballots continue to be counted in key Senate and House races across the nation. VOA's congressional correspondent Catherine Gibson has more.
U.S. President Joe Biden still does not know if he will work with a Democratic-controlled Congress for the next 2 years, but he is already claiming victory.
While the press and the pundits are predicting a giant red wave, it didn't happen.
Historically, U.S. presidents have seen major losses for their party in midterm elections. But Democrats won tough re-election races in places like the Virginia suburbs of Washington, D.C., preventing Republicans from securing a significant majority in the U.S. House. Republican Representative Kevin McCarthy will still likely be the next Speaker of the House.
Republicans will work with anyone who's willing to join us to deliver this new direction that Americans have demanded.
But analysts say his agenda will be limited by managing Trump-endorsed members of Congress.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very difficult for Kevin McCarthy to be able to maintain cohesion, because let's say in the case, which is now becoming more plausible, that it might be a tiny majority, single digits, that requires a real skill in any circumstance to be able to keep that caucus, united.
There were also unexpectedly close Senate results nationwide, including a significant win in the northeastern state of Pennsylvania. John Fetterman beating Republican candidate Dr. Mehmet Oz to keep the possibility of a Democratic Senate majority alive.
Protecting a woman's right to choose. Raising our minimum wage. Fighting the union way of life. Healthcare is a fundamental human right.
Analysts say those priorities will be difficult to pass if Democrats only have a tie-breaking vote from Vice President Kamala Harris.
The concern is that some of the issues that people entrusted, these candidates and what they were running on are not going to be actually reflected in the day-to-day.
For the second time in 2 years, Georgia voters could potentially decide control of the U.S. Senate in a special runoff election between Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock and Republican candidate Herschel Walker. Some Georgia voters say it's important not to give a mandate to either party.
I think we just need to get back to middle of the road. I think we've gone too far left, too far toward special interests.
And they're also aware of the costs of shifting power from one party to another.
It feels like as soon as we get something going really good, we flip-flop and go the other way. And it's just been a back and forth, seems like forever. So, but it is what it is. That's democracy.
The final balance of power may not be known until December 6th, when voters will choose between Warnock and Walker. Catherine Gibson, VOA News, Atlanta, Georgia.
For more on the U.S. midterm elections, I'm joined by Steve Reddish, VOA News Center executive producer. Steve, welcome back, and tell us more about the results and what to look out for next.
Right now, we are looking
mainly to the western part of the United States for some sort of idea of how this is going to play out. Two states next to each other, Nevada and Arizona, still have lots of votes to count. About 1/4 in each state. Nevada a little less, and Arizona a little more. And the Senate race in both states are very tight. In Nevada, the Republican is leading, and in Arizona, the Democrat is leading. If those hold, we're going to be looking back to the East, and a December election, a runoff election in Georgia between Senator Raphael Warnock and football icon in Georgia, Herschel Walker, and that will determine which party holds the Senate. We're still looking to the West, mostly in California, for very tight congressional races that are going to determine whether or not the House moves into the Republican hands or stays in Democratic hands.
You know, I don't recall recently seeing a tight race like this one when it comes to midterm elections. Is it likely that Democrats might lose control of the House?
The way things look now, where with candidates, Republican candidates leading in many of these undecided, still to be finished counting districts, it looks like Republicans will have the majority in the House with a slight couple, three, maybe a handful of seats. It will be a very slim majority for the Republican leader to be able to manage.
And what happens next if they do win the control of the House?
The Republican leader will have a very difficult time handling the very far right wing of his party. They will want to hold investigations, perhaps want to impeach President Biden. And with that small minority within that large caucus, the Republicans could see a lot of interfighting and likely not much of President Biden's agenda moving forward over the next couple of years.
Steve, as always, excellent analysis.
Thank you.
Steve Reddish is an executive producer for VOA News Center. As world leaders gather in Egypt in an attempt to slow global warming, rising sea levels are already encroaching upon the country's famed ancient port city, Alexandria, and it's wreaking havoc on the lives of the poor. Heather Murdoch reports with Hamada El Saram from Alexandria.
For years, cement blocks have been piled on the shores of the ancient Egyptian port city of Alexandria to keep the sea at bay. But by 2050, as the Earth's temperature rises, much of the city is expected to be underwater. Locals say the prospect is terrifying.
It is a scary thing, but I am one person. There's nothing I can do about it. We have heard Alexandria will sink into the sea, but we don't know when or even if it's true.
Flooding has already destroyed properties and displaced families in Alexandria. Families that are almost always part of the 1/3 of the country's population living in poverty. World leaders are meeting this week at the UN Climate Change Conference, known as COP27, in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, trying to devise ways to compensate the world's most vulnerable communities, which are also among the world's poorest. This year's UN Climate Conference is the first to formally address this contentious issue, making it a top agenda item, along with its main item, to reduce emissions worldwide to limit global warming, a long-established goal that is far from being met. Leaders say not acting on these dual goals could be catastrophic.
Experts are predicting as many as 1 billion climate migrants crossing international borders in the balance of this century. Think of the millions that are crossing borders now and the xenophobia and authoritarian populism that is caused by a large surge of refugees. And then imagine, if you will, what 1 billion climate refugees would do.
Unprecedented deadly fires, floods, heat waves, and storms have ravaged the earth this year, and experts say they are expected to get significantly worse in the future if the Earth's temperature continues to rise at its current pace. And in Alexandria, residents say it is obvious that wealthy countries are responsible for the damage.
عشان هم السبب الرئيسي بسبب الصناعات بتاعتهم.
Developing countries and poor countries don't have means like factories to pollute the air. It's the other countries creating the problem, and they should be responsible for fixing it.
هم اللي عاملين كل ده، يعني هو المفروض فعلا هم اللي يكونوا مسؤولين عن كل ده.
He says he wonders whether Egyptians can start farming in the deserts, as UN climate experts predict rising sea levels may wipe out nearly half the country's agricultural output within the next 40 years. For Hamada El-Rassam in Alexandria, Egypt, Heather Murdoch, VOA News.
For more on climate change and its impact on Africa, Kinyanjui Koimbori, an agriculture and climate change expert, joins me live via Skype from Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. Mr. Koimbori, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you so much for having me.
So much being said at Sharm el-Sheikh right now, but what challenges is Africa faced with when it comes to climate change?
Thank you so much. Yes, there are so many challenges that Africa is being faced with, but the main challenges is that climate change has impacted agriculture in Africa, putting in mind that over 80% of agriculture in Africa is rain-fed. So we have had an issue of agriculture being affected by rainfall. And all I can say is that also we have been affected negatively when it comes to our water bodies being contaminated. We are having issues of even our infrastructure being destroyed because we have not been climate proofed. So yes, the problems of climate change in Africa, they are catastrophic at this moment.
And what parts of Africa are most impacted and how?
Yes, most of the Africa, out of the 54 countries or 55 in Africa, I can say that almost 90% of them have felt the impacts of climate change. And the worst hit, there are around 10% of them, that is Kenya and the Horn of Africa. In fact, there has been an estimated 40 million people who have been rendered climate change refugees because of the impacts of climate change. We have lost a magnitude of animals due to drought, and this leads to the release of methane when the animals die. Also, we have seen drought, which has led to famine. So the catastrophic effects have been huge even to the economy, because we have had huge economic backdrops. This is the first time in Africa we are actually feeding wild animals, like even elephants. This is something we have never had to do or even tackle. We're even allocating money that has been allocated for health and education to go into fighting climate change. So it has impacted all sectors, and especially most of the countries in Horn Africa and Kenya.
And what are African leaders they are proposing to do in order to effectively deal with the effects of this climate change?
Yes, in this COP27 meeting that we have in, yes, there are over 130 world leaders and over 30,000 delegates globally. But in Africa, we have seen a handful of them, which is also a big backdrop. We had around 20 to 30 African leaders being available. But these African leaders, what they're calling for is they want to see financial aid being given to developing nations so that we can be able to adapt and mitigate against climate change. So this is a clarion call. We are calling to the developed nations to put up and to meet their pledges of the $100 billion US yearly that was supposed to go into the Green Climate Fund. And if not, as the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said, that we are heading towards climate hell. And the accelerator is fully on if we do not help Africa in terms of combating climate change by giving them the financial aid that they need.
Mr. Koimbori, thank you very much for your insight. Kinyanjui Koimbori is an agriculture and climate change expert. In Kenya, to reduce the impact of drought, a Dutch conservation group is helping ethnic Maasai to restore parched lands through rainwater harvesting. But with a failed rainy season forecast for the 5th time in a row, some are asking whether conservation efforts are enough. Juma Majanga has more from Amboseli.
God, remember us with rain. Sing this ethnic Maasai in a traditional prayer song. The Maasai are herders, so the worst drought in 40 years has been shocking.
We have lost nearly all our livestock due to prolonged drought. As the Maasai, we depend on livestock for livelihood. That is why we have come together to dig these things to restore our degraded land and bring back the grass for livestock.
The Maasai's Kuku Community Group Ranch is between Kenya's Tsavo and Amboseli National Parks on the southern border with Tanzania, a sacred place reserved for grazing during droughts. But the record drought biting the Horn of Africa has not spared the ranch.
The community here is like totally in a mess, especially this drought that we are in right now, like 80% of livestock is normal. So you can imagine the problem is even becoming bigger and bigger with time.
Dutch conservation group Just Dig It is working with the Maasai Wilderness Conservation Trust to help the community restore parched lands. They are digging water bands, semicircular shaped pits that capture rainwater and then reseeding the areas with grass. But they still need rain to get started.
If there's some rainfall and the seeds germinate and there's no follow-up rains, the seeds die off. But fortunately, the environment is so well adapted, even with little rain, the seeds germinate. And that's why we are also really trying to maximize the little rains that we get in the environment.
The green pasture is also needed to prevent human-wildlife conflict.
What causes elephants to invade farms is lack of water and pasture in the park. So if these grasses grow here, the animals will have their food and water in the park, and we will have peace.
Just Dig It says, in the past 2 years, they've built more than 273,000 barns, helping restore nearly 5,000 acres of parched land. Growing and selling hay from grass seed banks has helped employ women, and the trust says grass restoration is boosting tourism.
Through such projects, we are able to improve the tourism footprint in the area because we have noticed that wildlife come to the restored sites.
As the clouds gather, the Maasai sing for the skies to open and the rains to start coming. Juma Majanga for VOA News, Amboseli, Kenya.
Famine and drought in Horn of Africa is forcing people to relocate to makeshift camps to seek assistance. The Somalia region of Ethiopia is dealing with a severe drought that is the longest in at least 40 years. VOA's Paul Ndiho reports.
Severe drought in the Horn of Africa is pushing residents to the brink of starvation, destroying crops and killing livestock on which their survival depends. The Somali region of Ethiopia is devastated and there has not been any measure of rain for 4 consecutive seasons. International Rescue Committee President and CEO David Miliband this week visited displaced communities impacted by drought.
And we've been meeting internally displaced people here who, from a conflict of 5 years ago, are still out of their homes, not yet returned to their homes. So the need for humanitarian aid is very pressing. The fact that the large parts of the international community, so-called, have not delivered on the humanitarian appeal that's been made for East Africa is very serious indeed. That's an urgent need to stave off the growing hunger crisis in this part of East Africa.
Miliband urged leaders attending the United Nations Climate Conference in Egypt to address the needs of the people in Somalia.
Big message for the leaders meeting in Egypt that comes out of the situation on the ground here is that if this is to be a truly African COP, an African conference of the parties, then it needs to be a COP that addresses the needs of people here today, because the people of this region are paying the price of the climate crisis already.
In other parts of Somalia, the city of Baidoa is seeing a large population of people displaced by drought, living in camps on the edges of the town. Humanitarian aid workers have set up life-saving facilities in some government-held areas, and vast regions of the country remain under the control of the militant Islamist Al-Shabaab fighting against the government.
The numbers we have and based on the experts, agencies that specialize collecting information and for food insecurity and nutritional needs. More than 1,600,000 people in Southwest are in need of food assistance.
According to humanitarian agencies, the drought has surpassed that of 2016 and 2017, increasing the need for humanitarian assistance. Weather forecasters are predicting a fifth below-average rain season, likely increasing the risk of famine in central and southern Somalia. The United Nations Office for Humanitarian Affairs says there has been a threefold increase in displacement since the beginning of 2022, as people desperately leave their communities in search of water, pasture, and food. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.
Sudanese authorities returned the ousted President Omar al-Bashir and 4 of his close allies back to Koba prison after spending nearly a year in a hospital in Khartoum. In April of 2021, some Sudanese activists posted video clips on social media showing al-Bashir in good health visiting patients in the army's Aliyah hospital in Khartoum. The video clip sparked widespread controversy over the reality of al-Bashir's illness. Al-Bashir is being tried along with other leaders of the National Islamic Front for planning the June 1989 coup. Still to come, discussing issues pertinent to the African diaspora. We'll be back. In other news, Somalia's information ministry says its army and associated clan militias have killed at least 20 al-Shabaab fighters in towns in the center of the country. Thousands of public workers in South Africa walked out Thursday in a nationwide strike over wages after talks with government broke down, threatening essential services. Health Ministry officials in Malawi say cholera has killed 214 people, but infections from one of the country's worst outbreaks in a decade have started to abate after peaking last month. U.S. Senators Mark Warner and Tim Kaine recently hosted a discussion with members of the African diaspora community in Northern Virginia. The participants discussed U.S.-Africa policy and other issues pertinent to the diaspora. VOA's Lenomudu has the details.
Data shows that Virginia is home to over 115,000 Africans in the diaspora community. Some of them gathered here to meet with United States Democratic Senators Mark Warner and Tim Kaine.
As someone who's worked in the policy world for about 12 years, I know the importance of having African voices and policymakers and business folks coming together. It's a powerful tool.
Findings by the New American Economy Research show that the African diaspora is one of the fastest growing population of immigrants in the United States, with a 50% increase from 2010 to 2018. For Senator Tim Kaine, it is an opportunity.
So we're seeing this all over the Commonwealth. We need to recognize it as a value. There's sort of a competition to some degree in terms of influence in Africa between the United States, Russia, and China. Russia and China have assets, but what they don't have is an African diaspora community. So why don't we view our African-American population, and especially our African diaspora community, as a connection point with Africa?
Some of the attendees said the meeting afforded them an opportunity to convey the diaspora's concerns and suggestions to the current U.S. administration.
In terms of policy and in terms of economic development, I think them being able to see the plethora of African talent here, the different businesses, what we do, technology, climate change, innovation, they're able to take that back and see how they can utilize that to work with African countries and increase economic development.
Observers say African immigrants make significant contributions to the U.S. economy as entrepreneurs. U.S. Deputy Secretary of the Treasury Wally Adeyemo, the highest-ranking diaspora member in the Biden administration, said various measures are in place to improve the business landscape for small businesses in America and abroad.
At Treasury, we have a relatively small budget, but we're making sure that of that money, we're trying to devote as much as possible of it to minority-run businesses. But I know that many of you, in addition to being interested in doing business here, want to be able to do business back home. And a big part of that is not only the DFC and MCC, but it's also us being in a position where, as the United States of America, we think more broadly than just about what we can do here, be it AGOA or other relationships.
Democratic Senator Mark Warner has worked extensively on U.S.-Africa relations in countries such as Kenya and Ethiopia.
We need to do more trade deals with Africa. And recently, there's been a U.S.-Kenya trade deal announced. I think we need more. I would love to see us continue to support democratic reform, for example, in Ethiopia, a very important country. I think we need to guarantee human rights in Sudan. So we need more engagement there. Secondly, the American military's headquarters for Africa is in Germany. That's crazy. Senator Kane and I both agreed that we would commit to try to move that headquarters to Africa. And then finally, the administration is going to have a summit with African leaders coming later this year. I want to make sure that members of the diaspora are involved in planning that summit.
U.S. President Joe Biden is scheduled to host leaders from across the African continent during the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit in Washington, D.C. from December 13 to 15. Linor Moudou, VOA News, Alexandria, Virginia.
And that's our show for today. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
Welcome to NTA International. I am Lami Ali with the news highlight. A group of farmers association in Nigeria has appealed to the federal government on the need to release funds for the 2022-2023 dry season farming. This, the farmers believe, will cushion the effects of losses recorded to the flood and as well avert food crisis. The farmers, under a 6-8 commodity association with more than 18 million members, also called for the review and strengthening of the presidential fertilizer initiative to bring hundreds of thousands of uncounted ballots, a process officials in the two battleground states won could drag on for days. A senior elections official in Arizona's most populous county said on Thursday that workers there had a backlog of over 400,000 uncounted ballots. In the fight for the House of Representatives, Republicans were inching closer to wresting control of the chamber from Biden's Democrats. Republicans had secured at least 211 of the 218 House seats they need for a majority following Tuesday's midterm vote. And Beijing has closed city parks and imposed other restrictions as the country faces a new wave of COVID-19, even as millions of people remained under lockdown in the west and south of China. Reports say the country reported 10,729 new cases on Friday, almost all of them testing positive while showing no symptoms. More than 5 million people were under lockdown on Friday in the southern manufacturing hub of Guangzhou and the western megacity of Chongqing. Many city schools switched to online classes, hospitals restricted services, and some shops and restaurants were shuttered with their staff taken to quarantine. A rescue ship carrying 230 migrants has docked at the French port of Tulo after refusals by Italian government to receive the migrants. The Ocean Viking, operated by a French non-governmental organization, picked up the migrants at sea near the Libyan coast who were denied entry by Rome. The Ocean Viking ship had initially sought access to Italy's coast, which is closest to where the migrants were picked up, saying health and sanitary conditions on board were rapidly worsening. Italy refused, saying other nations must shoulder more of the burden for taking in the thousands of migrants trying to reach Europe from North Africa every year. Now, these are some of the trending news on the hour. Thank you for watching. Political update is next.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Key stakeholders in the 2023 general elections agree with the Inter-Party Advisory Council and the Independent National Electoral Commission on measures to discourage electoral malpractices and let votes count. Candidates urge election managers and stakeholders count the days to D-Day. Within the party's efforts to mend fences, meeting a brick wall, no pun intended. On some platforms, while on others, new friendships and alliances are springing up. The question is, are these new fronts forged on shared ideologies or just a union of the aggrieved? Also, on Political Update today, we will track the activities of candidates and get a candid view of close watchers of the political space. I am Fisai Ogunfui. Welcome. We start today's program from the Judiciary, and election adjudication is taking center stage. Judicial officers who will be handling post-election matters are in Abuja to prepare ahead of the vital task. This is to avoid conflicting judgments and ensure that verdicts are in line with the law.
I will tell you that this is a weighty undertaking you have just signed before the Almighty God. I am saying this because as the Chief Justice of Nigeria, I will not condone any act of recklessness, abuse of power, and public trust. This is a real privilege and your lordships must give a good account of yourselves.
You must resist all and any form of pressure and influence, as well as gratification that may come your way.
The new Electoral Act confers exclusive jurisdiction to hear pre-election cases on the Federal High Court with regard to candidate nomination in order to reduce forum shopping by litigants, abuse of court process, and reduction in the spate of conflicting judgments by courts of coordinate jurisdiction.
The Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, says it is on the same page with the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and all patriotic citizens who are working towards a general election in which votes will count. IPAC National Chairman Yaba Gisani expressed the Council's position in Abuja.
With electioneering campaigns and consultations ongoing by the various political parties to sway electorate ahead of the 2023 general elections, breaches of the laws are considered inimical to the process.
We're looking for an issue-based campaign with high level of decency. Not for anything, because Nigeria is looked up to as a leader. Not only on the continent of Africa, but all over the world.
The nation's security agencies and other relevant bodies are expected to gear up in the performance of their statutory responsibilities professionally and objectively.
The question we are asking is, as you prepare for the election, for voting, how do you prepare to deal with political criminals who will manipulate the process?
Stakeholders insist no stone will be left unturned in tracking and bringing to justice the perpetrators of recent incidents of politically motivated violence, vote trading and ballot box snatching, as witnessed in recent elections in Nigeria.
As the clock ticks towards the 2023 general election, the African Democratic Congress presidential candidate Dumebi Kachikwu has rolled out his campaign. The first of the nationwide move started in Abuja.
Expressing his readiness to work and lead his party to victory in the 2023 presidential elections, Kachikwu says running for the highest office in the land is not a decision he made on the spur of the moment, but one that has been defined by the very essence of his life.
I will do everything to engineer or activate or reignite our economy. We must rescue Nigeria. A rescue mission is not the mission of one hero. We must all be heroes in our personal spaces. So the aggregation of all our efforts will deliver our country. I will be the president who is comfortable telling the Nigerian people on a daily basis that he loves them.
He challenges the citizens to define their common character as Nigerians and constitute a new nation.
The sanctity and dignity of life will be restored under my watch. We must not let our basic decency as human beings be eroded. Our precious women will join us on the table of equality.
Kachikwu plans to hold town hall meetings across the nation as he advocates peace, unity in the country, irrespective of religious or geographical differences.
The All Progressives Presidential Campaign Council Youth Wing has inaugurated its North Central body to organize, mobilize, and ensure victory for the party in next year's election.
The inauguration of this high-level youth campaign body signaled the beginning of the rigorous task that lies ahead of North Central Youth for the Tinubu Shetima's ticket. The message here is simple and the areas to cover are familiar. These are the words of the Director of Youth Mobilization, North Central APC Presidential Campaign Council.
The North Central happens to be, I think, the third largest geopolitical zone in Nigeria. It has a very teeming youthful population, a population that is willing to go out there and vote for someone who understands the need to do what? Have youth key into what? The climate change agenda. That is the next biggest economy. We have a president who understands cryptocurrency, understands that we are in a nanotechnology age. So what else do you want again? So the charge is very simple. Go out there, get out the votes for our principal and have him emerge as president in 2023.
He says the North Central APC youth organizations are awake to their political responsibilities of ensuring that only a candidate with vast experience and capacity, is given support, and Tinubu is the man to beat.
All right, to the discussion. Now joining us now is the National Youth Spokesman of the Tinubu Presidential Campaign Council, Ali Audu. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So many, committees, councils, and all. How do you harmonize?
There's synergy within the team. The size of the party is quite enormous. We're about the largest, but we are the largest party in Africa, and as it is, there is need to carry everybody along and ensure that there's enough room for everybody to play his or her own part in ensuring not just to deliver success or victory at the polls, but equally to enlighten our Nigerians, especially the young people, on the journey so far for our country, where a lot could have been done, what has been done, and what needs to be done, and how we are going to do it, and what their role should be in working together with the party in government and the government when it's formed to build a Nigeria that every one of us will be proud of.
All right, we're hearing so many, different appointments, not only on your platform, in different political parties as well. The question for the youths and the agitations continue in different, fora. You have just been appointed as the spokesperson for the youth wing of the presidential campaign of your party. But like people will say, in political say, is this something for the boys, or is there a modus operandi of, where you're pushing the discourse to?
Yes, if you followed the young people in the party for a few years now, we've always pushed our leaders within the party. We've always agitated, because as the young, progressives, we are primarily young Nigerians who understand the concern of the average Nigeria. Nigeria is a very young country in terms of population. We have about 80-something% being of young people, less than 50. That's a very young population, which was an advantage during the global pandemic. You understand that most of the countries with older population felt it more than the younger population. It holds a lot of promises for the country and for the continent.
You're talking about maybe about 60% youth, or what's the statistic?
Way more than 60%.
Okay.
Of the 96 registered voters, about 84 million are 49
okay, you're talking about voters now, not citizens. Yeah. Okay. So, all right, go ahead.
On our population, I think about 130 million are between the age of 35 and 15 and 35. So it's a very youthful population we have in Nigeria, and not just population, we have young people who are very talented, who are tenacious, who are able, young people across the world from Nigeria are holding their heads up and flying the flag. Is it in athletics, in sport, in music, in medicine, in technology, in finances? Young Nigerians are doing well globally. So what we need is, which is what we have always pushed for within the party, is to get the government to understand that there is need to stop the continuous alienation of the young people, which is the root of all of the agitation from the young people. Involve them in governance, involve them in leadership position in politics, let them know their responsibility, give them tasks, let them be a part of building the future. If they are going to be